Hey everyone, it's really great to be here. I had a lot of FOMO last year when I heard about this conference. It sounded amazing and I was very sad that I missed it. So I was really excited when Mike invited me here this year. I think this is a really cool conference, really happy to be here. So I really identified with Matt when he said he needs to work on his slides up to 5 minutes before the talk. I also, when people ask for slides ahead of time, it's like, no, this is not something I can do. So I just didn't do slides. So you're gonna hear just some remarks from me, but hopefully that works out okay. And then when Commissioner Peirce gets here, we can have a bit of a chat. So I didn't, in addition to not being able to get slides in on time, I can't get titles in on time, so it just says keynote. But the unofficial title is The Limits of Technology in Achieving Privacy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, some of the things I hear and some of the things I'm worried about. So here's a scenario that probably some of us have lived. You use an encrypted messaging tool like Signal because it's encrypted, and you've turned on disappearing messages, and then someone screenshots your chat and shares it, or you accidentally add a reporter to your group chat. And all that encryption did not help you at all. And this illustrates something crucial we often miss in privacy conversations. When we talk about privacy today, the conversation inevitably quickly turns to technology, right? Not just encryption, but verifiable credentials, zero-knowledge proofs, multi-party computation, fully homomorphic encryption. I work on some of these technologies, and they are truly extraordinary, but we need to be precise about what they can and can't do. So take zero-knowledge proofs, for example. They let you show that a computation was carried out correctly without revealing the underlying data, and that's remarkable. But they don't tell you whether the data itself is accurate or complete. And they don't preclude the need for an authority to source that data, like a government indicating citizenship. The mere use of verifiable credentials can't prevent an authoritarian government from denying some of its citizens that credential, and it can't stop a platform from using that credential to kick certain types of people off. In blockchains, cryptographic techniques like ZKPs are kind of uniquely powerful because consensus and computation together define what we consider ground truth, at least as it pertains to the blockchain and what is happening in the blockchain world. A proof of correct computation is definitionally always correct, no single source of authority required. But the rest of the world doesn't work that way. And honestly, that's a feature, not a bug. In the real world, we still depend on people and organizations and just honestly reality to tell us what data is correct. So I think sometimes we forget that we need to have that bridge, that link to the real world, and that cryptographic systems can't just save us there. Here's something that worries me a lot. I think if used unwisely, instead of reinforcing autonomy, these cryptographic tools may help replace it with automated control. So let me explain what I mean by that. So imagine a world where producing cryptographic proofs is easy and automatic, and so asking for proofs becomes routine. You need to prove you're creditworthy to use a ride-sharing app. Or you need to prove your health status in order to enter a building. Or you need to prove your spending patterns to get insurance. Prove your income to access a dating platform. Services ask for proofs of income, political affiliation, or health because they can, and users might not even think about whether or not they should comply because it's automatic and easy to do. The fact that these requests don't leak specific data actually makes it all feel more acceptable. Oh, I'm not revealing my actual income, I'm not revealing my actual political affiliation, but you are revealing, they become something that you use very automatically, that gets integrated into the services you use. And over time, the ability to prove becomes an expectation. A technology that was originally designed to help with privacy turns into continuous permissioning. And we could end up in a world where constant proving replaces constant disclosure. The information is hidden, but the control remains. Even if we get the technology and the rules around how to use the technology right, even if we don't end up in that particular world, technology just does not operate in a vacuum. Unfortunately, markets don't reward privacy. This seems to have been borne out in practice. Individuals are often unwilling to pay for it. They favor convenience and ease of use. Platforms favor access to data so they can monetize it. And there's a circular benefit where the more data, the better the results, and the more users prefer, the less private service, because it actually improves their lives more to be able to access the good results. So even if we have the right technology, the reality of market forces means that it just might not get adopted. So this is why the mere existence of technology is not enough. Privacy requires not just good cryptography, but also good law. We have to work within the frameworks of law and policy. And I think I want to suggest 3 ways that this should happen as a non-policymaker and a non-lawyer. So first, I think we need to stop criminalizing the creation and use of privacy-preserving technologies. There is still this belief in many circles that tools like coin joins and privacy coins are only for criminals, that there's no reason why anyone who's not a criminal would want to use this stuff, and that running software to help users unlink transactions and improve their privacy is somehow wrong. There's still this belief. There's a fundamental lack of understanding of how unprivate the default is. So sometimes, I try to give this example to explain that, because I think people think that using cryptocurrencies, non-privacy coin cryptocurrencies, I don't think people understand, they really get how not private that is, how not private the default is. So here's an example. Imagine that a user gets paid by their employer on-chain in Bitcoin. Great, okay. The employer can then directly observe how the user further spends that money on chain and might be able to see, for example, if the user donates to a well-known charity address or spends the money to someone who's been identified as a medical professional. And I don't think people understand this is the default. This is how things work if you don't use a privacy protecting service. And it makes perfect sense that users would not want this and would try to employ techniques to avoid it. So why are we trying to criminalize those techniques? And this is especially important because we need to make the use of privacy-preserving systems the norm, not the exception. It can't be treated as a red flag that you're using encryption or you're using a tool to help improve privacy. You need a large anonymity set. You need a lot of people using it with you. Okay, second, we need to establish legal protections for user rights like self-custody and data portability. So maybe you might not traditionally associate these things with privacy, but I think they're very strongly connected. The ability to control one's own assets and information without being forced through intermediaries is really important, because then we can't rely on the intermediaries to do this work for us. So right now, the default assumption in regulation is that intermediaries are necessary surveillance points, but individuals can custody their own assets and manage their own data directly. And this is important to promote competition. We should enshrine the right to self-custody without it being treated as inherently suspicious, create real data portability requirements, and not require that every participant route through a monitoring gatekeeper. So I think if we can do this, if we can kind of create something a bit more positive, which is more of a user bill of rights to control their own data, that's actually something that can be a very positive way of trying to promote privacy in other areas. And then finally, and third, I think we should stop mandating that private sector intermediaries engage in specific data collection. More broadly, we need to stop using the private sector as an extension of law enforcement. Many existing laws assume that gathering and storing personal data, often in very specific formats. I was actually quite shocked to learn this, that sometimes a regulator will say, no, you can't store just the last 4 digits of the Social Security number. You need to store all the digits of the Social Security number. And this is crazy to me that a regulator would be able to say this to a fintech company. There's this assumption that, and it's kind of enshrined in a lot of laws and regulation, that gathering and storing personal data in specific formats is the only way to ensure accountability. And this is overly prescriptive and also not true. And this means doing very hard things like revisiting laws like the Bank Secrecy Act, which I'm very much looking forward to talking to Commissioner Peirce about. And this is not about rejecting oversight entirely or ignoring risks. It's about starting from the question that should guide both technologists and regulators. What are we actually trying to achieve? If the goal is to prevent harm, detect fraud, and preserve fairness, we know there are ways to do that that do not rely on continuous data collection. So in conclusion, does anyone know, is Commissioner Peirce here yet? Oh, great, fantastic. Hi, I was looking for you over there. I'm going over. Okay. Technology can protect privacy, but only if we also carefully design our systems, markets, and laws to protect it. The question isn't whether we can prove things, it's what kind of world these proofs will serve. And so with that framing, I'm very excited to start the conversation with Commissioner Peirce. She spent a great deal of time being very thoughtful about this. And I'd like to welcome you to the stage now. Let's get started. Thank you.